It's a sad thing that there's only one game that gets the Game of the Year award. Sometimes there are so many awesome games in that same year. That's why I have created a list of some of the best games that should have gotten the award as well. So let's look at the first game on our list. Bloodborne. Bloodborne is an absolute masterpiece, especially if you're into dark, gothic settings and brutal, unforgiving gameplay. As someone who's played it, I can say it's one of those games that's challenging but in a way that makes every victory feel incredibly satisfying. For those of you who know about this game, have a pretty good idea why it's such a masterpiece. Bloodborne is the dark horse of From Software. The combat, bosses, and the environment are the three things that makes this game such a memorable title. Let's talk about combat first. It's your usual From Software stuff, but it's much more difficult than Dark Souls. It's fast-paced and aggressive compared to other Souls games. You have to be constantly dodging, countering, and staying on the offensive because healing isn't as forgiving and you don't have a shield to hide behind. It's all about timing your attacks and mastering that visceral counter with your gun. About the bosses, I think we all know that the game does offer some pretty wild boss battles. Even the first boss fight will eat you up several times. And don't even get me started on the DLC. The last thing that makes Bloodborne is the environment's vibe. I love the dark setting with a touch of horror. It's so good to play such level of game in that dark setting. The difficulty level and the environment perfectly match each other. It's a nice touch to play something more tense that literal speaks that it's a From Software game. I hope that more and more people try out this game, and maybe someday we get Bloodborne 2 and that game gets the Game of the Year award. Marvel's Spider-Man 2018. This is an absolute gem of a game that brilliantly captures the essence of being your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. From the moment you swing into the vibrant streets of New York City, you're hit with an exhilarating sense of freedom. The web-slinging mechanics are so intuitive and satisfying that it feels like a natural extension of the character. I believe that the story is pretty detailed, with Peter Parker balancing his superhero duties and personal life. The character development, especially the dynamic between Peter and Mary Jane, adds depth to the experience. And let's not forget the iconic villains. You get to face off against a roster that's not only memorable but brings unique challenges that keep you engaged. What really stands out are the visuals.
You can't just push people around like that.
Just ask for help next time.
The graphics are stunning, making New York City feel alive and detailed. 2018 was such a fascinating year as we got a full-fledged Best Spider-Man game. Fans like me were waiting for it for a long time. It was time that we get a big budget game about our favorite childhood superhero. The side missions and collectibles are plenty, giving you reasons to explore every nook and cranny of the city. The combat system is fluid and dynamic, allowing you to string together combos with a variety of gadgets and moves that never feel repetitive. Marvel's Spider-Man isn't just a game, it's an experience that makes you feel like the hero. Swinging through the city, taking down criminals, and embracing the superhero life has never been more fun. It's definitely a must-play for any gamer or Marvel fan. Uncharted 4. You hear thinks that it's a crime not to give the final game an award. Nathan definitely deserved that much of a tribute. It is a breathtaking conclusion to Drake's adventure saga. From the moment you jump into the game, you can really feel the weight of the world around you. In my opinion, Uncharted 4 is a perfect game. There's nothing in it that makes me question why I'm even playing it. The dialogues are on point, the story is well delivered, love the mix of high action combat with parkour movements, and don't even get me started on the beautiful landscapes. The game is packed with various places, and to be honest, I love the developers for that. You get to see mansions, caves, jungles, and even the island. Believe me when I say this, but cutscenes are my favorite aspects. I love how awesome some moments can be and how many details are packed into each scene. No matter what I say, it's always going to be less. Even if you are not so much of a hardcore fan, the fourth part is still a finest experience. It's as if I played the entire series in just one game. It totally depends on how you perceive the game, which is going to impact full completion, or you as a player dropping the game in the middle. Bonus tip, just stick through the first few hours, then there will be a lot of action scenes and story development. You will surely get hooked. Legend of Zelda Tears of Kingdom. Imagine taking everything that made Breath of the Wild a huge deal and then cracking it up further to the max level. That's what Tears of Kingdom is all about. Now, I know that a lot of you guys will probably think that this game doesn't deserve the award because one game from the Zelda series has already gotten Game of the Year. However, that's not an important reason because it's not as if the developers made a bad game and we're just hoping that they will get high sales because of the brand name. Anyhow, Tears of Kingdom is still a perfect game, and some even say that it's better than Breath of Wild. Sure, if you have played that one, then you will notice certain similarities, but I'm sure you're gonna love the game. Also, you can paley it even if you have never played any Zelda games before. They've added this crafting system where you can fuse weapons with almost anything you find, and it leads to some ridiculous combinations. Ever wanted to stick a boulder on the end of a stick and call it a weapon? You can do that. It's one of those games that constantly encourages you to experiment, and that's honestly where a lot of the fun comes from. Tears of the Kingdom doesn't just rest on what made Breath of the Wild great. It's a next level evolution of the formula that feels fresh and familiar at the same time. Definitely one of those games where you lose hours just wandering around, finding something new around every corner. Resident Evil 4 Remake. I literally love this game. You can even say that it's hands down my favorite Resident Evil game. I mean, I do love the suspense and sneaking around, but it was such an amazing feeling with a lot more action and our favorite Leon. The developers did a fantastic job creating a remake of this game. I will always be grateful because some of us finally got the chance to play it, as it's a bit hard to play the original version in 2024. If this is your first time entering the Resident Evil series, then you can definitely start with this one. My suggestion is that you really should consider this one as your entry point because it's less boring in case you're not into sneaking around and a lot of puzzles. From start to finish, there's just shooting and great cutscenes. That's why the fourth part is the best one. I can still remember when the developers first created the original version. It was their experiment to see how audience will react to some new type of Resident Evil stuff, and to be honest, they really succeeded. You have got the best protagonist from the series. Ashley is more bearable this time. Obviously, it's a remake, so the lighting and textures will be upgraded. Other than that, the gameplay is a lot smoother with perfect camera movements. In fact, I'm not trying to convince you guys, but if you do love the series, then there's no reason to skip this one. It's also perfect for newbies. The infamous Second Son. The biggest reason I love this game are the powers. Sometimes when I'm too tired of playing big budget RPG games, I like it if I get to play something simple with just running around and having fun, similar to SpiderMan or Sunset Overdrive. That's when Infamous comes handy. However, let me clear something for you guys. Sadly, this game is only available on PS4. I don't know how long it's gonna take for them to release a PC port. Anyways, you're gonna have a blast playing this game, assuming you love exploring the open world and just messing with the powers. The superpowers are the core part, as you have got 4 amazing abilities such as smoke, concrete, neon, video. Each of these powers are unique in their own way, and the best thing is that they all look fantastic. It's visually satisfying to see our main character zap through the city in neon, our video power. Besides this, what makes the game stands out is the karma feature. Apparently the game judges you on your action. If you play as a bad guy, then certain cutscenes or NPC behavior will change towards you and vice versa. So this boosts the replay value as you start to get an urge to see different outcomes. Anyways, Infamous is a pure blast because it's a complete joy as there's no deep storylines or difficult boss battles. Games like these remind me that all we wanted was to have fun. Ghost of Tsushima. The reason most of us are huge fans of this game is because of what the developers did with it, or you can say what they actually created. You guys have no idea how grateful I am to Sucker Punch. I have been a fan of samurai and ninja games since childhood. I love slashing through enemies, discovering stuff, and the parkour. That's why playing such a full-fledged samurai game is a dream come true. The developers nailed everything. They gave us a deep, perfect story that's about a lot of things such as honor, protecting people, staying true to your oath. Then there's the beautiful open world, which is completely indescribable as you have got to play the game to realize what I'm talking combat. Moving on, combat is at its peak. The standoffs are the best. It never gets old to slash through enemies and kill them in one go. There are also the hidden ghost weapons, plus different stances enhance the feeling. I loved how the sword moves in the water stance. That was really one of my favorites. Another thing that makes the game great are the side missions. There are really a lot of cool side content, whether it be the missions, finding shrines, or even the mythical quests. The game is a complete package and have everything, so you won't get bored in the main storyline. A bonus tip is to at least complete the mythical tales. You will get some cool stuff such as skills, abilities, armor. Anyways, I believe that every open world fan is gonna love this game. And you don't need any convincing because Tsushima is highly popular. So, if you're looking for your next open world game, then you can never go wrong with this one. Final Fantasy VII Remake. This is an absolute roller coaster of emotions, especially for someone who's into action-packed RPGs. First off, the visuals are mind-blowing. They really took the original game's world and characters and brought them to life in a way that feels both nostalgic and fresh. Cloud, Aerith, Tifa, and Barrett look and feel so real, like you're truly immersed in Midgard. One thing that stands out for me is the combat system. It's a perfect mix of action and strategy. You're not stuck in that old school turn-based setup. Instead, you've got these fast-paced, real-time battles, but with enough of a pause to pull off strategic moves with abilities, magic, and summons. I wasn't super into the old turn-based style, so this new system was a big win for me. It's got that hack and slash vibe, but with a tactical edge. For me, the story is a real treat, especially with the expanded content.
And I know they're never gonna let Aerith go.
They've fleshed out the characters and given more depth to parts of the original that were pretty bare. Some story moments hit hard emotionally, and the voice acting just adds so much to it. You can't help but feel connected to the characters and their struggles. I do have to say though, while I love the game, the pacing can be a little slow at times and they do drag out certain sections. Some side quests feel a bit like busy work, but honestly I didn't mind too much because I just wanted to spend more time in that world. Final Fantasy VII Remake feels like a love letter to fans of the original while being totally accessible to newcomers. Loki, make sure to play both games, Interlude and Rebirth. Plague Tale Requiem. If you've already played Innocence, the first game, you know what you're getting into, but Requiem steps everything up in a big way. The story hits harder this time around. You're back with Amisha and Hugo, and their relationship feels even more real. The bond between them is stronger, but so is the weight they carry. Hugo's curse keeps getting worse, and Amisha's constantly fighting to protect him, which really pushes her character development. You can see how tired, but also determined she is. It's almost like the game is emotionally exhausting, but in a good way, like you're with her trying to survive. Also, I love how the developers upgraded everything gameplay-wise. The rap mechanics are cranked up to 11. They're not just swarming around like in Innocence, they've become a living nightmare you have to strategically work around or even use to your advantage. Plus, the environments are more open and there's more freedom to choose how you tackle enemies, whether you want to sneak around or take a more aggressive approach. Amisha's combat skills are more refined too, so she's not just helplessly running or hiding anymore. The game can feel a little overwhelming with all the darkness and desperation. You're constantly moving from one tense moment to another. There's rarely any downtime to just breathe. It's intense, so if you're looking for a laid-back experience, this might be a lot to take in.
I don't know what's happening to me, Lucas.
Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. This is one of those games that just feels like a visual spectacle from start to finish. the first thing that hits you is how stunning the graphics are, especially if you're playing on PS5. The colors, visuals, and everything else comes together, resulting in making you feel like you're playing a Pixar movie. You literally jump between dimensions in real time, and it's super seamless. There's no loading screen or anything, you're just pulled into another world, and it really shows off what the PS5 can do. If we talk about the fast-paced gameplay, then it's completely fun with a lot of variety. The weapon variety is one of the best things about the game. You've got all these creative, ridiculous weapons that really make combat feel fresh throughout, like 1 second you're throwing out a massive cannon, and the next you're launching a gun that spawns little fungi that shoot for you. It makes every fight unpredictable in the best way. What makes the game stands out in my opinion is that the platforming is smooth, the puzzles are fun without being too complicated, and the boss battles have a nice mix of challenge and spectacle. If you're a fan of action platformers, Rift Apart really nails that sweet spot between nostalgia and new-gen innovation. It's one of those games that reminds you why you love gaming in the first place. Allan Wake 2. This one is an absolute mind-bender of a game. If you love the first one, this sequel takes everything up a notch. The atmosphere is darker, more intense, and you're constantly on edge, which makes sense because it plays with psychological horror in a way that really gets under your skin. The best thing is the storyline. It's complex, but in a good way with a lot of layers to unravel. You're playing as both Allan Wake and this new character, Saga Anderson, who brings a fresh perspective to the game. The way their stories intertwine is really well done, and it keeps you hooked as you switch between them. There's a constant feeling of mystery, and you're piecing together fragments of reality and fiction, which is pretty wild when the lines blur. If you ask me then, besides the story and environment, the next best thing that makes the game great is the combat. It's more polished than the first game. The flashlight mechanic is back, and it still feels so satisfying to weaken enemies with light before taking them out. But they've added more survival horror elements, so you have to be smarter about conserving ammo and resources. You can't just go guns blazing, which adds to the tension. I believe that the sequel is so much better, but you definitely need to play the original, as there are many links in familiar places. You will thank me if you start with the original. That's how this series has always been meant to played.
There's something I'm forgetting. Something important.
Red Dead Redemption 2. Probably the most deserving game in this list that should have gotten the award. Red Dead is the perfect choice in every category. There's the touching storyline, the best cast of characters, gameplay at its peak, full of possibilities open world, and one of the best main characters. Besides this, there are also cutscenes, and the music is definitely the best. There can never be a game like Red Dead. This is one of those peak moments of Rockstar when everything felt right. The game is loaded with content to make you feel as if you're in a living, breathing world where even the tiniest details matter. I remember I was completely surprised from Chapter 2. It felt like a huge world of endless possibilities has opened for me. I could go anywhere and do whatever I wanted. Red Dead 2 touched our hearts, and the main reason was Arthur and the bond between the gang. Towards the end, you start to realize that everything is about to end, and that's what truly makes each moment precious. I can still clearly remember that last ride song. It was such a heartfelt moment. I'm sure that a lot of you guys must have cried towards the end. It was such a sad feeling to know that all this is about to end soon. There's no doubt in my mind that Red Dead 2 will forever be known as one of the best open world games with everything in it. Let's see what the studio has cooked for us in GTA 6. Nier Automata. Nier has always been a critically underrated game. You can also say that people do know about this game, but they never actually played it. The experience is hard to put into words. It's more than just a game. There are so many varieties in the gameplay. One moment you're playing it in the third-person perspective, and the next thing you know, there's the side-scrolling happening on the screen. Everything is sort of in a mix. The perfect blend of sci-fi combat, robotic stuff, mix of different soundtracks. You play as 2B, this android who's on a mission to fight these alien machines, but it quickly becomes clear that the game is asking deeper questions about life, purpose, and what it means to be human. For me, the story and combat are the two best things. You're slicing through enemies, switching between melee and ranged attacks in these insane, fast-paced battles. The boss fights are on another level. It's got that Platinum Games polish where you feel totally awesome when you nail those dodges and unleash a combo. Now, the story is not your typical sci-fi, and it takes you down some really dark, thought-provoking paths. You go through multiple playthroughs to get the full picture, and with each new route, the game flips your perspective. It's honestly one of those games where after you finish, you just sit there in silence, letting everything sink in. At the end of the day, Nier Automata messes with your mind, breaks your heart, and leaves you questioning everything, but in the best way possible.
We're soldiers.
Before I reveal my final pick, here are some honorable mentions. Kingdom Come Deliverance, God of War Ragnarok. Ragnarok is hands down one of the best games I've played in the series. It's the perfect follow-up to the 2018 game, and somehow manages to elevate everything, from the combat to the storytelling. Right off the bat, the visuals are insane, the world feels alive and epic. You get thrown into this brutal, emotional Norse mythology saga that genuinely gets you hooked, especially with how Kratos and Atreus' relationship grows. Atreus wants to find his place, and Kratos is trying to keep him safe while dealing with his own guilt and past.
But you don't believe in any of it.
And still, I follow.
That balance of vulnerability and strength in Kratos is a highlight for me. He's no longer just a rage machine, but a father trying to navigate fatherhood in a crazy world of gods, monsters, and prophecies. We all love the series for its combat, and the developers didn't disappoint us. You can switch between the Leviathan axe and Blades of Chaos, and there's a lot of freedom in how you approach fights. And the bosses are on another level, like over 50 of them. You never feel like you're fighting the same thing over and over. There will also be a new weapon besides the ones we used in the 2018's release. This one is a must play if you have played the previous one, as Ragnarok brings closure to the Norse saga. You're gonna love it as the stakes are super high this time. All realms come together to fight the Odin. There are so many epic moments. Alright, this finishes our list of some of the best games that missed the Game of the Year. All these games should have gotten the award as they have something unique about them, and even some of these titles are perfect in every gaming category. The perfect combat, finest storylines, smooth gameplay, deep storytelling, and engaging open worlds. Anyways, if you have made it this far, then please subscribe as I'm close to reaching 23,000 subscribers, and join my Discord for giveaways.